Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'm really glad that I am getting the opportunity to speak in second reading to Bill 4, because we're speaking about the principle of the bill here. Are we at all interested in the concept of it? Do we want to see it go forward and try and tweak it a bit or fix it a bit because it's not exactly what we were looking for? Or do we just disagree flat out with the principle of it and don't want to see it go forward at all? And I'm really incredibly disappointed to say I can't support this bill in the way that it's presented. And this is a bill that I have waited a long time for. And to see it come forward, drafted the way it's been done, it's such a slap in the face from colleagues of mine that are no longer here. The previous member for Edmonton, Goldbar, had a bill 209, I think it was. There was actually a really good run at this and had some very good regulations and a process to put a very strong whistleblower protection in place. But I have to say that I would not recommend to anyone that they step out as a whistleblower if they're relying on this legislation to protect them, because it's not going to. And that is what is so sad. More than sad, it's frustrating. It's just bedeviling that this government over and over again can take an idea, they get pushed and pushed and pushed to do it by the opposition, by advocacy groups in the community, by individuals, constituents. They finally say, all right, we'll do it, and then they come out with something that we might as well not have had because it so disregards the principle of what we were asking for. And that's what we have in Bill 4. So it's called the Public Interest Disclosure, in brackets, Whistleblower Protection Act. And, sometimes people talk about, well, close but no cigar. In theater, when you go to see your friends play and it's a real turkey, you say, well, that was interesting. And then you talk about the set and the costumes. Or maybe you say, well, it was a good idea, just bad execution. I can't say any of those things for this bill. It's not close enough to deserve any kind of a cigar. As a play, you couldn't possibly say it was interesting. And it is a good idea. Well, maybe I agree with my last statement. It is a great idea. And it's one that's very needed in this day and age. But it is foul execution in what we have seen brought forward. And the longer I look at this, the more I read it, the angrier I get. Because we, all politicians, have created a situation where the public no longer believes us or trusts us. And we've managed to disparage the civil service enough that we've given permission to the public to disparage them as well. So rather than being regarded as an honorable profession that you go into to serve the public and provide a program or service to them in a good way, now they're all called various bad names. And what a civil servant is trying to do is to deliver a service in the same way to no matter who comes through the door. And that's a good concept to work with. But we know in this day and age that we need to go and look at our programs, review our programs on a regular basis to make sure that they still make sense, that they're still being delivered in an effective way, that they haven't been abused anywhere along the line. And frankly, no program is immune to this. Things go wrong, things change in other contexts, other legislation changes that affect the way a program is delivered, and you want the people that are working there to be able to step out and tell us there's a problem here. This is not working the way it should. The taxpayers are not getting value for their money, or even worse, that there's fraud or bullying or an illegal action taking place. That's the only place we're going to hear this from. So we depend on those people to step out, but we have to protect them. And there's far, far too many examples of people who've taken huge risks, and these are many of them well-educated people, scientists, respected academics, people with many years of experience in particular areas, who physicians, yes, very good, medical officers, ER doctors who step out and say, this is wrong and it's so wrong, I need to tell someone out there about it so it will get fixed. So in most cases, they've already tried to fix it on the ground. They've already gone to their supervisor. They've already talked to their colleagues at the coffee table or in their place of work, and nothing's moving because people don't voluntarily step out of their comfort zone and put themselves in jeopardy for fun, or for something to do, or because they were bored. It's scary and potentially quite harmful to them. So if we accept that, somebody that is stepping out to blow a whistle on wrongdoing or illegal activities really does need to be taken seriously and be protected. But what we do see, whether we're going to look back at things like Enron or other corporate structures in which corporate bullying was endemic to their corporate culture, or to see how people get, what's the official word? The human resources term is constructive dismissal. So this is the opposite of that. All of a sudden people aren't getting the assignments they used to get, or they're taken off of a good file. Other people start to mock them or make jokes about them when you walk by. That kind of stuff in your working atmosphere is toxic. It really poisons it. Or let's say you lose your job and you're fighting to get it back because you say, hey, I stepped out, I was a whistleblower, and now I've lost my job and directly as a result of that. And what happens? We say to them, well, prove it. You, an individual person out there on your own, you prove that that government structure, set out to do this to you. Who's able to do that? I mean, you can't even leave your office with any paperwork anymore. If you get fired, there's somebody at your elbow and out you go and they're taking your card off your little elastic thing and you're out. So you couldn't even collect any of the evidence that you would need to try and prove this kind of thing. So this is what is so distressing to me in this bill. First of all, the premise of the bill is that they're going to set up another process or structure in here that you're going to go to your own workplace, to someone that's been identified as the, sorry, I'm not even remembering the title here, the local whistleblower person, and give them your information, and they should be looking after it. Well, for any of you that have ever been in that kind of situation, that's just kind of laughable, because they're probably part of the problem. In all likelihood, as I mentioned, you've already gone through the workplace saying, don't you find it strange that so-and-so always disappears at this time of day? Or, gee, how come they get to have such and such? Or, in all likelihood, most reasonable people would have done that already and not seen anything happen and not seen any change. So by the time they're at the point of doing things officially, on the record, this seems like a strange step to make them go through. The one saving grace in this is that the legislation does allow that if you don't want to go to your local person, then you can go directly to the whistleblower. Oh, I'm sorry. These terms are not sticking to me today. The legislative officer that they're going to create here, the commissioner of public interest. Okay. and they can bring the case before them. So, okay, that's one small positive thing to say about it. But where I'm really concerned is the lack of protection that's offered here. So for starters, there's no protection about somebody losing their job, or if they do lose their job, there's nothing that says, okay, if it turns out that you have lost your job as a direct result of your whistleblowing, we will compensate you for the time that you were out of work and restore the job to you or an equivalent job. Nothing in here that says that. So now we know that if somebody blows the whistle and there's no protection and there is a way of a corporate culture that allows them to minimize, diminish, trivialize, and my friends over here are experts in this, so I got to assume they've passed some of that to the people that work with them. I hope it hasn't trickled down through the civil service, but you know, I can't speak to that. But every day in question period, and we saw it today. You know, a minister stands up and questions somebody's intelligence in the question that they asked, or demeans them by saying, well, they weren't smart enough to understand the question, or trivializes the question by just dismissing it. So, you know, it happens right here. You all know what I'm talking about. And it happens easily, and it happens all the time, and very few people even comment on it. So it's easy to have it part of that corporate culture. There's nothing that's going to protect people from, as I said, losing their job. Nothing that's going to protect them from harassment or bullying in the work site. I could call it going to Siberia. You know, all of a sudden you're in the desk that's at the end of the hall next to the photocopy machine, and you're missing out on the, you know, the chit-chat that's back in the main area, the kibitzing. You don't know when everybody breaks for lunch because you're down the hall by the photocopy machine. So you've basically, it's like blockbusting. It's like corporate culture blockbusting. And here, I said blockbusting to a younger person the other day, and they didn't know what I meant. But that was something that used to be used by unscrupulous developers, where they would buy up all the houses around, and you know, a couple of people wouldn't sell, or one elderly couple were going to hang in there in their little old bungalow. And so the developer would basically rent the houses to people that weren't your number one kind of people. And then you start having parties, there's loud music, there's stuff going on, maybe they don't keep the property so nicely, you know, no mufflers on the motorbikes, et cetera, and this couple's really starting to be afraid, and they're not comfortable in their home anymore, and it's a way of busting the block and getting them to move out so the developer can buy the house and put up the development they want. That's the same concept here. Being sent to Siberia down by the photocopier is a form of blockbusting. It's a way of making people so uncomfortable in their workplace that they give up and just get out because it's so toxic. And you want to talk about post-traumatic stress disorder, and I'm not minimizing it here, but just imagine the stress that you're under if you're in that kind of situation. You did a brave thing, you stepped out, and now you're being punished in your workplace. There's no protection for you at all. And if things go badly and you decide to quit because it's so bad, or you get fired, you know, probably not constructively, let go, and now you have no salary, your family thinks you are a complete idiot for having jeopardized them and their financial security and perhaps reputation, if that's part of it, and still we have no protection here. I think part of it is you have to make sure that the legislation is offering whole remedies, so that would be the thing about the work and the missing salary, maybe the missing benefits as well, missing pension contributions, that there should be no burden of proof put on the individual. Once it's established that there's a connection, and this is not hard to do. You know, if the person blows the whistle and a week later they're let go of their job, well, duh. Those things are probably connected. I think there's a very high probability of it. But not to place the burden of proof on the individual. I would say, you know, the ones with all the money, the corporate culture there, they can pay for it. I'm really looking forward to Committee of the Whole. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable.